of the homeless being cold in the winter. But it was brilliant that they printed the ad on a blanket. So the posters themselves are blankets that are posted up around the city. And then when it's cold, a homeless person can take the blanket off the wall and just wrap themselves up in it. Now that, to me, is sustainable design. So good way to go, advertising agency. And the value of design has never been more apparent. When we look at these are business magazines from Europe and the United States and Canada, and they're recognizing the value of design on the covers. 15 years ago, this would never happen. There's been a change in the business world. Business recognizes the value of design. And in fact, just 2 weeks ago, Apple Computer became the most valuable brand in the world. Apple is now #1 to Google's #2. And the only reason that Apple is #1 is because of design. Because Apple didn't create a better cell phone, a better hand phone. They created a better interface. And Apple didn't invent the MP3 file. They just made the MP3 file delightful to use, something that people other than geeks would want to use. It's all about interface. And that's about design. And that's design that, well, it can help make a better planet, it can help make a better cell phone, it can help save lives in Ghana. But it's our future. And we have a choice as designers. You see, we can just say, we're going to do whatever makes the most money, or we can do whatever satisfies us personally the most. But I want us to look at what doctors have done. Because 2,000 years ago, doctors took a Hippocratic oath. The Hippocratic Oath is the voluntary code that doctors follow. And they said that they're not just going to use the power of doctors to make as much money as they can, or do cosmetic surgery. They would pledge that whenever they could reduce harm in the world, they will do it. And I think it's time for designers to do the same. And indeed, when I was just growing up as a designer, back quite a while ago now, I was a young designer, and I decided, my girlfriend just convinced me that design was bigger than just aesthetics. And so I made up a manifesto. I came to Canada's version of ADGI, which is the Graphic Designers of Canada, with this manifesto it was feminist, and it was environmentalist, and it was about designers taking responsibility. And I was 21 years old, kind of naive, didn't know what I was getting into. And it took 12 years, but when the dust had cleared, we created a new code of ethics in Canada. And something else happened. In Canada, we certified graphic design. And what I mean by that is that, you know how architects and doctors and lawyers and registered nurses, these are protected professions under the government. You can't say you're a doctor if you're not a doctor. You can't say you're a registered nurse if you're not. Well, now in Ontario, where I live, you can't say you're a registered graphic designer if you're not. You can get thrown in jail. And so graphic design is now a certified profession because in Ontario, we recognize the power of design to kill and the power of design to enhance life. And so we created an association in Ontario where we registered designers, and we created a national code of ethics for designers that included a commitment to society and a commitment to the environment. And so because of this, because of the combination of the code of ethics and the certification, it's against the law for a graphic designer to design products that are bad for the environment where I live. And I think that's fantastic. And I've been traveling, and I've been preaching like this, because I think every designer in the world should have the privilege of working in a profession that is respected, and in a profession where we respect ourselves enough to say that design is bigger than just selling cola. And I took this idea to Grata, which is the United Nations of Graphic Design, and I was able to spread it. The United States of America, their design organization, asked me to help them change their code of ethics to include a commitment to society and the environment, and we did that. I was able to go to Norway and Scandinavia. We developed a certification for designers and a code of ethics for designers in Norway, and now they're certified. And then I decided to write a book. And that's the book that brought me to Indonesia. This book tells you how to do it. And the book, last year, was translated into Chinese. And the American Code became the standard for Chinese design students. So now they're using this code of ethics. And believe it or not, there's 250,000 graphic design students in China, which is a little intimidating, but it's good that we direct them in the right direction. It went to Korea, and then this year I have the joy that this is now here in Indonesia. And of course, you Indonesians are leaders, so you took it one step forward. Not only is the Indonesian design book better printed than the English one, but there's also a Braille edition in Indonesia, which is the world first, and that's close to my heart. And you know, if you want to read the first 40 pages of the book, it's available free. And I know that the Indonesian edition of the book is on sale here tonight, and it's substantially reduced in price. The thing is that I'd like us to have a code of ethics for ADDI as well, and one's in the works, and I've volunteered to help finish it off. So I'd like to think that by the next time you and I meet, that there'll be a code of ethics in place for ADDI as well. We've also set up a website where you can tell us your stories of how you've developed Do Good Design. So at this website, people upload their graphics and descriptions of their projects, and it's a place you can go to be inspired. So if you're wondering, I'd like to do good, but I don't know how, you can go here and find dozens. You can find over 100 examples of Do Good Design projects, and tell us about yours. Because half the examples I showed you today are things that people brought to my attention. So maybe your next project will be in my next presentation in Taiwan or somewhere. And the last thing I ask of you, the last thing, is that I ask designers to take a pledge. It's a 3-part pledge, as mentioned before. And the most important part is that I ask that you spend at least 10% of your time as a professional working on projects that will help make the world better, that will help repair the world. 10%. Why 10%? Well, I found this is zakat. You know, it's a principle of Islam. The Christians have a similar idea. It's called a tithe. It's 10%. You take 10% of what you earn and you give it to the poor or to help society. The Jews have a similar idea. It's called tzedakah. It sounds a little like zakat, and that's not a coincidence. And they have the same idea of 10%, giving 10% back. And the Chinese have a similar idea. So I'm asking us to take 10% of our professional time. And here's why. If let's say we work 40 hours a week, 10% is 4 hours. Now I figure there's at least 2 million designers in the world. So if we take 2 million designers, multiply by 4, that's 8 million hours a week of time designers spend creating a better world. And I'm not suggesting you give your time away. I want you to find projects where you get paid to do good. I want you to make a living doing good. I don't think there's a problem that this planet has that can't be solved with 8 million hours a week of design thinking. It's not my job to tell you how to do good. It's not my job to even tell you what is good and what is bad, because I know in your heart and in your mind you know what is good. What I want to urge you to do is join an international movement of designers who are committed to doing good. And so what I'd like to ask is, because I know that this is entertaining, but what's really serious for me is knowing I'd like to have a show of hands if you'd be willing to spend at least 10% of your time doing good in your work. Can I see how many of you would be willing to commit to doing that? No, I want more than that. Please, we need at least 80% of people to do this. 10% of your time doing good. Thank you, that's better. Okay, 10%. It's up to us to do this, and the nature of professionalism is such as this, and I've translated this into Indonesia. Jangan hanya buat desain yang keren, tapi buatlah desain yang mendorong perbaikan. That's what I have to share in France. You have to share in So thank you so much. Terima kasih. Nima, do you think there's a benefit in maybe summarizing this for